Good evening. It is Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, and we're calling the Groton Town Council Committee of the Whole meeting to order. It is 6:31. Do call to order. Roll call. All are present except for Councilor Parker, Councilor Jones, and Councilor Gajewski has resigned to fulfill his duties at the state. So we have 6 present, and that is a quorum. All right, calendar and communications. Councilor Bordelon. Councilor Merritt, I'm sorry. Councilor Merritt.
I have nothing really to pass on, other than I attended the parade in Noank yesterday.
Okay, very nice, thank you. Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. I just want to say I attended and walked in the Memorial Day parade in Noank with Councilor McBride and Councilor Pacino, along with State Rep Baumgartner. To me, the Noank Memorial Day Parade is just a huge piece of our history. It's been going since 18-something. I can't remember the exact date, but it's just an important event, and the conversations after and the speeches are just inspiring and really make you reflect. And one of the things that a retired gentleman there said, and I don't have his name in front of me because I'm rushing from coming from another meeting, he stated that when we look at our fallen soldiers, and he's lost a few, and he says, let's not forget the ones that we've lost to suicide after being in combat, and they should not be forgotten either. After that parade, we went down, I went to Mystic, walked in the Mystic Memorial Day Parade that ended at the VFW, along with State Rep Baumgartner. And that, again, was another event that ended at the VFW with wonderful speeches of reflection and a lot of men and women speaking about their fellow shipmates and fellow soldiers that did not return home. So just so important to take a day and remember that it's not just a holiday, that people were lost. And in my family, my first cousin's son from Waterford, Ari Cuthers, and I'll just say that on the record today, he was lost in combat in Afghanistan, and so my family has been directly affected by losing a soldier overseas in Afghanistan. His brother is a Groton resident who did the memorial mural over at the Outer Light pub on the wall there that says Groton, and he got back into art after the loss of his brother. So other communications, I just came back from the Board of Ed meeting. I just want to say kudos to all those students from the swim team that showed up and many others and parents. There was probably over 55 people in that room. And that's where I was before I came here, to stand in solidarity with them, with the concerns, with the current cuts to the budget for Board of Education, with looking at cuts to ROTC, swim, and many other extracurricular activities, and parents are upset. And I advise them, come next Tuesday at 6:30 to our town meeting and speak about your concern about the cuts that this council made to the Board of Ed budget. I believe, if my memory serves me, myself and Mr. Merritt were the only two that did not support the cuts to the Board of Ed with Councilor McBride, who was not in attendance that night. It is vital that we support education, and I will always stand for education. So I just want to thank those students for rising up, and I told them to get involved in local government. Also, I had communication as to why were the last several council meetings canceled. I was never called. I just got a memo. I don't know who was surveyed. I reached out to the town manager. He told me to contact the mayor. The mayor never responded to me as to why. I guess maybe some people were on vacation. I don't know. I was never surveyed. Folks are concerned that the one chance to talk one Tuesday a month is canceled. It should be rescheduled. So I just want to ask, is that going to be rescheduled? Because, if you don't do your work at your normal job, you have to reschedule what you're doing. So folks were concerned that their right to speak was basically kind of, taken away from them, and just random meetings in the middle of summer, which has never happened. All of a sudden, a bunch of people can't attend. I don't know what's going on. So with that, those are my communications, and just a lot of other concerns about short-term rentals, budget issues, budget with the council, not just passing the budget as a whole. I keep getting emails about that we didn't review the budget. As well as, it was set up here that the RTM would review the budget, and they took it in like 3 big chunks and finished it all within like a lightning speed. The representative town meeting that's supposed to be our financial branch of the town completed that all in a matter of maybe 3 days. So if the council perhaps thought that they were going to do it, that didn't get done there either. So a lot of concerns as to what's going on in our town and where and why is the stuff not being publicly announced in a manner that it should. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Pacino.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have anything to pass today.
Thank you. Councilor McBride.
Thank you. Yes, I attended the Groton 1 Point annual budget meeting this past weekend. I also attended, as Councilor Bordelon mentioned, the Noack Memorial Day Parade, and she pretty much covered all the topics there. It was a wonderful event. The individual's name is from Noack. It's Lieutenant Richard Gudis, who gave a very meaningful and powerful speech, so it was wonderful. And correspondence, similar correspondence to what Councilor Bordelon had mentioned regarding meetings and budgets and so forth. Those are the various questions I've had over the last couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rusk.
In light of Memorial Day, I would like to just ask the council for a moment of silence, please.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I had the honor Friday of attending an event with Gold Star families, and it really kind of set the stage for Memorial Day weekend for me. And I, first of all, want to give my condolences to Councilor Bordelon. I didn't know that. And to all Gold Star families out there, I think we need to remember our fallen more than just one day a year. And I think a lot of people do, but I'm glad I was able to have that experience and able to reflect really on the meaning really of that week, of this weekend. I was able to attend the Groton Subvet Memorial Day ceremony on Monday, which is always very moving. So that is my only report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Our town council meeting for this month has been postponed to tonight, and we will be taking up that matter in the middle of our agenda. There was not enough members to make a quorum at the town council or the following cow. So when people are saying they cannot make a meeting, it's not about polling anybody. There was not enough members to make a quorum. I'd also like to thank the RTM, which is the financial arm of our community, for doing their work at the RTM meetings. And like to thank everybody, or wish everybody a happy Memorial Day, and may we always remember and thank those who have served and sacrificed for our community. Moving on
Point of
is to
information?
approval of minutes.
Point of information?
Your question.
In the future, though, it's, usually there was
Your
like an
question?
email. Yeah, I'm getting there.
That's not a question.
If you could give me the grace and the gratitude and the respect to say it.
That is not a question. You're out of order.
I was getting to my question, and that's how I start. I know. How do you even know I don't have a question? So can I give
Please
you a
state
minute?
your question.
So my concern and my question is, in the past, when counselors weren't going to be in attendance, an email was sent saying that Counselor blankety blank and blankety blank couldn't attend. Who couldn't attend?
There was an email sent stating that they were being, we would not be having those meetings.
But who? Who couldn't attend?
That is up to the counselors who would like to tell you.
Well, they should. They should tell the community, right?
So
They
we're
can't
moving
make
on
their
to it. You are not asking a question. Your time
So
is.
my question is, have in the past, didn't we send that out? And we did. So why are we not
No.
sending it out? is my
Thank you.
question.
Your time is over, and you no longer have the floor. Moving on to approval of minutes. Counselor Rusk, would you like to take that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 2025-520, April 22nd, 2025 minutes. I make a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of April 22, 2025. So moved.
I'll second that. Any questions or comments about the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote on approval of minutes for 2025-520 for April 22nd, 2025 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll say.
That passes 5 to 0 to 1, with Bordelon abstaining. Up next is new business, Pleasant Valley Preferred Developer presentation. This is on page 14 of our packet. There is no motion. Good evening.
Good evening.
So you're going to do a presentation this evening?
Yes.
And we're not going to be doing a Q&A after the fact, after it is completed, so, thank you.
Point of information,
Your question?
what's the reason that we're not doing, because in the past, we've always been able to ask questions, but with a presentation, it's going to trigger questions. So why are we not doing it? Who's deciding that?
It says presentation only. That's what the
But
packet
you can't ask
says.
clarifying questions to a presentation?
This is not a debate.
I'm
I'm
asking.
answering your question.
And I'm asking you.
And
Why the
then you are
change?
debating.
That's not debating, I'm asking a question. Why the change? So if you're going to give a presentation, like at college or anywhere, usually if you have clarifying questions to the presentation, you're allowed to say, what did you mean by line 4?
That's an explanation. That's not a question.
That's a clarifying question to a line or an object on there.
Counselor Bordelon, if you have a question, you can ask a question, not your explanation
So
of it.
my question is, why are we not allowed to ask a question or clarifying question to the presentation?
Page 14 of your packet says presentation
So
only.
who made the decision
I
to put
did.
that in? Okay, just wanted for the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's just,
Do you have more to say? Because this is now you're out of order again. That's twice.
I didn't even say anything yet. You just called me out of order, I didn't even say anything.
You do not have the floor right now.
I didn't ask.
You are now out of order for the third time. We're taking a recess. We'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Queen's Court. point of
It
information?
is 6:56, and we are back from recess. Counselor Bordelon, your question.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record that I walked out into the hallway, the developer and our economic guy left. And when I come out in the hallway, Pacino's out there talking with them, and I just, there was this whole perception thing that was done with the last developer, and I just want to know why this time it's not the same perception. When I ask the question, then John Ronner says I'm bullying him because I asked a simple question. But, now everybody's bullying everybody ever since I have a harassment case because I'm being treated unfairly up here. But in fact, all I was asking is why is Pacino allowed to have small talk and dialogue if we can't even ask questions on the presentation? That's all. So,
I think at this stage of the game with Pleasant Valley, a developer has already been selected. This is not during the selection process to have conversations with the developer.
so we can talk with him at leisure.
Mr. Burt, would you like to take this?
Simple talking, but we don't want negotiating to happen outside of the official negotiation process once they're officially designated as the preferred developer. So it's kind of a line there.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure.
And give us a presentation this evening on the Pleasant Valley Preferred Developer presentation.
Happy to. Good evening, John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development Services for the town of Groton. With me here tonight is Will Cannon. Will will give a brief presentation. First, I'm just going to give a little bit of an overview of where we are, where we're kind of going. If this actually could be that other slide. All right. So as everybody knows, we have kind of been working through a process here. At this point, we actually have tentatively selected a preferred developer. We're not looking at multiple developers anymore. Spinnaker here, Will Cannon from Spinnaker is here to talk about them tonight. All right, sorry. So again, tonight, what we're here to talk about is that preferred development and the whole disposition process. Also, so tonight we're talking about the introduction of the development team, their proposed concept, a little bit of the context for the public hearing that will be at the next regular council meeting, and approved the next steps, what comes after that. Also want to just put out to everybody that the Greater Groton webpage is up with information on Spinnaker, their preferred concept, as well as the whole process that has taken us to this point. And then after tonight, so tonight there'll be a brief presentation. June 3rd is the public hearing for this. And then if the town council officially decides at their next, so after the public hearing, we'll go back to council will make a decision. And then after that, we get into actually negotiating for a purchase and sales agreement. So with that, John, if you want to bring up that other presentation. That one there, yep. So if you hit that refresh button.
Maybe to share first. Right there.
Yep. Okay, there you go, Will.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you all for the opportunity to present this evening. As John mentioned, my name is Will Cannon. I'm on the development team with Spinnaker Real Estate Partners. Spinnaker is a vertically integrated development organization based out of Connecticut, down in Norwalk. Strong track record of executing on mainly mixed-use and multifamily developments, primarily in Connecticut and a few other areas across the country as well. We're vertically integrated, and what that means is we've got in-house capabilities for development, construction, and property management. That expertise allows us to be creative in the projects that we pursue. We can focus on things that are important to us such as placemaking and sustainability, to key highlights for the proposed development here at the Pleasant Valley School. Our architect that we've selected to work with on this project is Binefield Architecture. They're an award-winning architecture firm, also based out of Norwalk, Connecticut, and a firm that Spinnaker has collaborated on many projects with over the past 40-plus years. On the screen now are a number of recent completions completed by the Spinnaker team, many in collaboration with Binefield Architecture, and not all, but many also completed by our in-house construction team, Halyard Construction Company. Even more projects under construction, also mainly in Connecticut, one example in Charlotte, North Carolina. But just to point out a few in New Haven, the Square 10 project is on the site of the former New Haven Coliseum, and really impactful site for the city of New Haven, right at the entry to town off of the exit 47 connector, and really an important property for the town. And we've created a sense of place and community through architecture, through public open space, and through our development planning. More projects that are in the pipeline right now. Some are soon to start construction, but just more examples of projects that the Spinnaker team has worked on over the past few years and now have the opportunity to execute on. So with that, I'll jump now into the development plan for the Pleasant Valley School. What we've designed here is a suburban walkable village. The buildings in the front off of Pleasant Valley Road are intended to be 2 to 3 story buildings, designed in varying height and designed to make it seem as just like a main street is developed over time. The varying height and design is intended to make it appear as though it's developed organically over a period of time.
I'm sorry, can people in the gallery quiet, please? Thank you.
In addition to the development plan intended to look like it's developed over a period of time, we've included open public space, outdoor recreation space, both for residents of the community and for the Groton community as a whole. We've also dedicated space for natural area preservation, and the buildings are all designed to with the underlying objective of placemaking and community building. The site planning and the architecture will hopefully enhance and preserve the character and sense of place with that meaningful architecture, all while growing the town grand list and tax base and supporting the town's resiliency and sustainability goals. On the screen now are examples both from Spinnaker and Binefield Architecture's past projects showing that design style, varying heights and varying designs intended to look as if it's organically developed over a period of time. This slide now shows the concept elevations specifically for the Pleasant Valley School redevelopment. The image at the top is the view from Pleasant Valley School Road with walkable streets, parallel parking, and carriage houses intended for residents of the community to park, and tree-lined streets, really emphasizing the walkable village nature of the development. The second image on the screen shows the view of the buildings themselves as you're walking down those tree-lined streets, again showing the varying heights of the buildings, varying designs, and really an organic development process. Then in the back, there's, which the street line, the tree-lined streets point you to the back building, which is more architecturally significant in itself. It's a larger building. It hosts the amenity space for residents, the lobby, and the leasing area. The preliminary project concept contemplates roughly 300 units. This unit count may slightly vary as we move through the design and permitting, and as we have options to use slightly additional or if we're restricted in the height that we can use in the development. The 300 units will be will be made up of studio apartments all the way through three-bedroom loft units, although the exact makeup of that unit mix is yet to be determined with further market analysis. Unit finishes are intended to be luxurious with stainless steel appliances, plenty of natural light, further benefiting our sustainability goals. And the community amenities, on the screen, an example of some from our past projects: fitness areas, recreation space, outdoor space, and a leasing and amenity lobby, oftentimes now designed with co-working in mind. Lastly, we're committed to sustainability. We incorporate green building elements, energy-efficient technology, waste management practices, and climate-resilient designs in all of our communities, and it's a point of emphasis for this redevelopment project. And keeping in line with the zoning code, we've committed to retain a minimum of 20% of the total lot area in its natural state for this project. That's the end of the presentation for this project, and just want to emphasize that we as Spinnaker are really excited for the opportunity to come to Groton, build the much-needed housing, and bring our ability to create a sense of place and build community through our developments.
Point of information?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, this is still a very conceptual project at this point in time. Things will get refined more through the negotiation process that happened with the council and the developer, and then through the planning and zoning stage. That's where things will really get designed from a, stormwater runoff and the kind of specifics of those types of things.
Correct. Thank you. Councilor Bordelon, your question?
Sure. So what would be our first opportunity to ask direct questions that the council has regarding what we've seen thus far in this presentation directed towards the developer? If we have questions, when will that occur?
We had executive sessions that direct questions were supposed to be met there. This is not time to ask them questions. All questions are supposed to be directed at the
I already said
mayor.
that, but when will be the next opportunity, based on we've had this full presentation at that time, when will the next step in the process be that we can ask direct questions regarding the presentation that was presented, is what I was asking.
Just a moment, please.
Versus sending them an email and the community doesn't hear them, versus like publicly asking.
Right, there was a timeline for when, that this will all be coming forward and when it needs to go to all the proper placements. But we also have a public hearing scheduled, or we will be setting that today at the town council.
Right, that's for the public to speak, but when will the council have a chance to ask their direct, low-level
Mr. Burke, do you have an answer to that?
Have we decided on which cow we're bringing it to? Is it the first cow of the month? I'm not sure if we've.
I know we have a lot.
It'll be at one of
items
the cows
between
in June. I just don't know if we've pinpointed which one yet. Let me see if I have it.
And one of the items that we just want to be aware of is, as we have some of these discussions, some of them can be open session, some can be executive session, because we want to make sure anything that we're doing that's almost a negotiation, we want to make sure happens in executive session versus kind of clarifying questions that might be more on the project that's just very broad in general.
What I'm just asking is a
Thank you.
chance to speak to the open presentation that was not in the executive session, that would just like a couple questions about the design that I'm looking at, or that those low-level questions that aren't really executive session level.
We schedule it for the first cow would be June 10th.
June 10th? Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
All right, thank you.
I'm glad our community can hear about this now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is the landfill solar lease. This is a motion on page 16 in our packet. Counselor Rusk, would you like to take that motion?
I did the last one. Would you like?
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor McBride, would you like to take that one?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to recommend a resolution to refer the matter of entering into a 20-year lease agreement and tax agreement with VCP Groton LF LLC for a 5 megawatt AC, 6.6 megawatt DC solar array on the Flanders Road landfill to the Town of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission for a report as required by Connecticut General Statutes 824, and to set a public hearing before the Town Council on July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Moved by McBride, seconded by Rusk. Good evening. Would you like to introduce yourselves and give a synopsis of what we're dealing with in this contract?
Great. Good evening, everybody. Greg Hanover, Director of Public Works. With me tonight from Verigy, which is our selected developer, I have Ron Wedeking and James Sirkanowitz. Did I get that right?
Yep,
All right.
that's an easy one.
All right. And also, I have Town Attorney Rich Cody is in the audience, Rob Klee, who's our town consultant from Klee Sustainability, and Sam Zeiken from CSW Energy. Just to kind of briefly recap, because it's been a while since we met about this, it's over a year ago. The town put out an RFP in December of 2023 to all developers to, install a solar field on the capped landfill in Flanders Road. We received 7 responses for that. After reviewing them, we selected Verigy because they were in the best interests of the town. We reviewed that with the council on February of 2024. We got approval to sign an option agreement. With that option agreement, that allowed Verigy to proceed with submitting for a couple of bids for the with Eversource. One was the NRES and the other one was the SCEF, which is the Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program. In May of 2024, they did win a bid with the SCEF program. Under this program, the town will receive an annual payment of $228,000. And just to remind everybody, Verigy will be doing all the design, construction, maintenance, and operation of the whole entire facility. The lease period we're looking at is for 20 years, so the $228,000 over a 20-year period is a little over $4.5 million. One of the issues that we ran into after we started working on the lease agreement was the issue of taxing. Under the Connecticut state laws, the council cannot statutorily waive the taxes on the equipment, the panels, the electrical equipment, that even though it's on town property, and also the fact that we're leasing property, there's a leasehold tax. So we had to work an agreement with the attorneys that there will be a tax agreement with Verigy where they'll pay those taxes, plus the difference between the 228 and the taxes will become the lease, if you will. So the town is still getting the 228,000, it's just from two different pots of money, if you will. So right now, we've got the agreements, which are included in your packet. They've been approved by the attorneys. They've been reviewed by both parties. So we have a process that we have to follow, and starting tonight with a presentation, and Verigy will be introducing themselves and has a short presentation in a few minutes. Then we need tonight, as the referral said, is referral to the, under State Statute 824, to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a report, and also to set a public hearing date of July 1. And after the public hearing, we will also come back to the COW to go over the agreement again, if there's other questions, and address any concerns that the public may have, and then set a final approval of August 1st. I believe it's August 1st, so the first council meeting in August. Once that's done, then we are set to go. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Verity, let them introduce themselves and run through, their background and also where they are today, because they have been doing quite a bit of work behind the scenes.
That's great. I'll give our background, and Joe will give us the work side, as an engineer is qualified to do. Verigy's been around in Connecticut. We're a Connecticut-based company headquartered in West Hartford. We have 53 employees with the company. We have built over 140 megawatts of solar in the past. We have 65 megawatts currently in our construction pipeline that's ready to construct in 2025. We are in 22 states nationally, and we have 180 acres of projects that we've introduced sheep to graze and in a very green and natural way keep the vegetation down from the solar panels. And it's a local sheep herder that handles that for us. In terms of our company itself, besides myself, I work in strategic markets and new technologies. Brian Fitzgerald, one of the founders of the company, is our director of development. And James here is manager of permitting, which is the first important step. And so I'm going to turn it over to James to kind of bring us up to date where we are with our permitting, interconnection, and other details of the project.
Thank you, Ron. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So again, as Ron mentioned, I am the manager of permitting with Verigy. Prior to Verigy, worked for over 10 years for Eversource and their interconnection department, so very familiar with that aspect. And since my time with Verigy, have been responsible for permitting a number of projects through the Siting Council and other state permitting procedures. For relevance, on the screen you see now are some of the landfill projects that we are either have completed recently and put online, and those in the photos would be Deep River, Montville, and Middletown, and then others that are in development. So besides this one here in Groton, we are very close to completing the permitting process for the Mansfield landfill project and hope to begin construction on that later this year. And the Southfield landfill project, as we speak, I think is getting approved by the Conservation Commission, and we hope to be achieving P&Z approval next week on that one. Here, just as a quick overview, this is a snapshot of where we currently stand with the site development of the project in terms of our design plans. So what you see, to just orient you a little bit, is the center of the screen is the actual landfill itself. And what you see generally represented are the solar panels, which are ballast mounted so that we cannot disrupt the landfill cap. So what they essentially do is build giant concrete blocks, anchor the structure into that, and attach the panels to that. And then likewise, we run all of the cables from the panels over land and connect it to a utility area that is on the east side at the base of the landfill. And from there, we connect it to the Eversource grid. So that enclosed area on the bottom of the hill is where you would have the inverters and transformers, things of that nature. And then the interconnection to the Eversource grid is currently in the process of being redesigned slightly to go to a fully overhead connection to avoid the trench disruption through the transfer station area. To give you an idea of where we stand with the overall engineering status, I would peg us at about a 75% development in terms of the design and in terms of the drainage calculations for the project. The interconnection status with Eversource is that we submitted to the interconnection application back on May 9th of 2024. And we are now well into the permitting process with Eversource. A distribution impact study has given us a high-level estimate of between $3.5 and $4 million for the interconnection cost to the grid. That it does involve some upgrading of lines on the Eversource grid. And they're currently doing a facility study, which is to do a detailed engineering design and refine that cost estimate that I just gave you. In parallel to that, a transmission impact study is also being conducted by ISO New England, and we anticipate that at the conclusion of the facility study in August and the conclusion of the transmission study at the end of the year, Eversource will issue a final interconnection agreement for us to execute with them with the final and exact costs for the upgrades required. With regards to permitting, we are targeting submitting to the Connecticut Siting Council on or around July 4th. And based on typical timelines, we would anticipate about up to a 5-month process to get that approved. It could potentially be sooner, but we'll hold 5 months on the high end. With DEEP, we would have to submit and get approval for a stormwater permit. We anticipate submitting for that in a couple more weeks, approximately a month, so sometime in mid-June. And timelines for that would peg approval typically sometime in the fall, perhaps September. The longest lead time as far as permitting goes for us is the DEEP landfill post-closure use permit. So we have actually submitted for that a couple weeks ago, and that unfortunately carries a very long review time. Typically, in the past, it had been on the neighborhood of 3 months, and recently that seems to have ballooned to 6+ months. We're currently going on 7 months needing approval for our Mansfield post-closure use permit. So therefore, that's the one I would say is controlling our timeline for permitting at this point, and puts us into sometime just before the end of the year in December to hopefully gain that permit approval. That concludes my presentation on the engineering and on the permitting status. I'm going to turn it back to Ron to discuss the town approval and the lease process and the taxes. Thank you.
So as Greg mentioned, we've gone through all the negotiations on the lease and on the tax agreement, and we're really ready for the town to review it, and anxious to hear Greg make a phone call and say we're ready to go.
Okay.
All right, I guess that's it. We'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Councilor Bordelon.
Yes, thank you. So how does the agreement work in conjunction with the first folks that came to visit us that, presented? How does this?
I'm just,
Oh, I just thought you were trying to tell me something. Okay. How the agreement with the two gentlemen that are in the audience that brought this to us, this idea and all that, and then how is this linked together? How will that?
The gentlemen you referred to are the town's consultants. They, put the proposal together. They are still working for us, with us. Verigy is the partner that actually does the design and construction. So the two of them will still be working going forward to get this completed.
So there still will be a joint effort all the way through, or does that tie ever break at some point, or would they still be, who's the main liability here?
Well, Verigy is going to be, responsible for the construction, the operation, and maintenance of the panels. And Clee is, Associates is the consultant, if you will, for the town.
And I'm familiar with the Montville one. My father-in-law lives in Montville, so I know he does town dump runs there. I've seen the solar panels up close and, pretty impressive. Thinking, not saying you will, but if a bankruptcy was to happen, where's our protection? Like, what happens to these panels? What happens to the town? What do we do?
There would be typically, in a bankruptcy, either a private equity firm or a bank. The bank that supplies the financing for it steps in and would become the owners. And there are provisions in the lease to cover that for the town.
Okay. And then what type of insurance do you guys carry if the cap was breached by accident and the exposure was to occur? That would be your liability, and like how much coverage do you guys have to carry to be able to?
If it's breached in the act of construction or maintenance or by any of our people on the cap, it would be our responsibility to address it and fix it.
And so do you guys have to carry a certain level of liability insurance
yes.
for that?
Yes.
Okay, and that's defined in here? I just didn't see the where?
It's
I don't-
outlined in the,
What section?
Uh, 17,
17.
yeah, it's page 12 of the lease.
And then my other questions is, if there was a bankruptcy or a buyout, can there be a buyout within the lease agreement? And if so, what are the stipulations that are going to protect us?
the stipulations are that it's possible. Well, first of all, we are allowed to assign this lease within our company to a separate LLC or entity. And likewise, we could assign it to a third-party company that would come in and own it and run it with the town approval.
And would they have to have these same liabilities, or it goes back to the drawing board
No,
again?
it would, the lease would carry over. The lease would govern it for 20 years.
And would that start over, or they would just be picking up where you left off?
Pick up where you left off, yes.
And so we would be notified, and there would be a formal process for that?
Yeah, and we have a notification in the lease for both notification to us and notification to the town.
And at the end of the 20 years, say, you guys decide to get out of the business and don't want to do this anymore, and you don't find anybody else that wants to do it, you know, what happens with the structure?
Well, I can certainly speak that I'll be out of the business. But for us to be out of the business, it's possible. But all projects come to the end of their life at some point. So there is a provision for taking the project down and making sure that the ground is not restored to what it was 20 years ago, but what it should be when you leave it in the capped landfill with grass and just like it wasn't there.
And then someone reached out to me and asked, like, so what is the town of Groton going to be making, right? People want to see dollar signs. That's what we're all, you know,
Over
you've got
$4
to,
million.
you know, a year?
No, 240,000, Greg?
221.
Right.
228,000.
And that won't change over time as you get new
No,
people on it?
that's, our income doesn't change. So we lock in what the lease rate will be over the course of those 20 years.
And so it's a set lease rate for 20 years. It's not gradually increasing at all?
That's correct.
Is there a reason that it's not increasing? That's some questions that I was asked.
It's,
Because I was looking at some other agreements and like, so year one might be this and some had scaled agreements. Why is ours, we're not showing, I mean, everything goes up in 20 years. Why are we?
Because the income coming into the project doesn't go up. And this is very common in solar projects, energy projects, where it's a fixed rate for 20 years from the utility.
All right, those are all the questions I have right now. Thank you.
Councilor McBride.
Thank you. I commend this, moving this forward, Town Manager Burt, because it's a good use of land that is not being utilized or bringing any revenue to the town. So I appreciate that, and I think, you know, $228,000 is a significant amount, so that's great to hear. What's the timing of when do you expect to see those revenues coming into the town?
I'm going to turn that over to you.
Okay, as far as revenues coming down, I'm sorry. Sorry, with the commencement of the lease agreement is when that's the revenue that is provided to the town. Once the system goes online, the production of the energy, that's where we are compensated by Eversource through that SCEF award, so the Shared Clean Energy Facility Award. Every kilowatt hour that is produced, we get compensated by Eversource for that, and then Eversource in turn sells that energy in, it's typically what you would call community solar. So they sign up subscribers via their process to purchase that energy.
And between now and then, there is an option agreement, and we have an annual payment that we make to the town for that option.
So can you make it real simple for me to understand? Are we getting X next year or X in 2028? Just seeing the next couple of years.
When did the 220 come?
Or even the payments prior to the 228? Just trying to, from a cash flow perspective, so the residents see what kind of revenue this is generating.
Greg, do we make an annual payment on the option payment?
You made it one time, I believe.
One time, okay, upfront, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you've already got it.
So we received, so is it 3 years to bill? I'm not, this is not my area
It
of knowledge.
can take as long as 3 years, but we're a year and a half into this. So that's the good news. So it could be
So-
another year.
So another year, possibly 2 years, but it's not a 7-year.
No.
It's a couple of years. You want to
That's
get
right.
open, you want
Yeah.
to be ready for business, okay. And I just had a question, this is just my own knowledge. The 34.596 per megawatt, if that changes, does our 228 change?
Yeah, it can go up or it could go down. It's
Okay.
not by very much.
But it's immaterial change if it goes up and down, it's so,
Yeah.
the 228 is a solid number, it's not that it's going to drop to 150.
No, it's not going to drop to 150, but it could drop to, 221, and it could go up to
Fair,
235, depending on the number of panels. It's all based on the kilowatts.
Okay, no, that's great, just wanted, that sounds like it's some,
Yeah, it's a good question.
and I'm not sure if you're able to answer this or not, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I don't know if this number's a good number, just because I don't know much about this business. Is this 34.596 comparable to Montville or Wilton or anything else? I mean, how do we know as counselors that this is a fair rate that we're getting?
Well, those are based on a different model. There are, I believe, the lease agreements for those may be for a fixed amount, because those were under the NRES program. So it's a little bit of a different payment structure as far as how we get compensated on Eversource with energy, because we cannot, whereas the Shared Clean Energy Facility Fund allows, again, subscribers to sign up and benefit from that energy. The NRES is a different model that does not have that option. So it's a little bit of a different financial structure on those, and they also are smaller. Those projects are all under 1 megawatt AC.
Okay, I'm still somewhat confused because I'm just not, this is not,
Those are, again, those I believe are fixed. Those projects, I believe, I'm not as familiar with the leases, and that's where our business development folks are a little more in line. I'm more of an engineer than the lease and the financial person. But my understanding is those are structured as a fixed lease payment that does not vary with the generation, and that is mainly because of the incentive program that is subscribed for. that being
Mr.
an
Byrd
error.
has something.
There's an article on that lease in Forbes that says it's $800,000 total, $40,000 a year for Montville. Does that sound, that's what the article says?
That sounds accurate, because it is, again, about, those are about a fifth of the size of this. This is close to a 5 megawatt EC proposed project, much larger footprint.
okay, so that answers. So it's a fifth of the size, so we should get 5 times the amount. If it's 40, 200, so it reason, okay. I just didn't know what that number is.
Probably, I didn't want to speak incorrectly, since again, I'm not a financial expert.
No, I appreciate it. Again, I think it's great for the town to be picking up 228, so I think that's all my questions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Council Bordelon?
For me, I think it's a great use of space. My questions are geared towards like making sure we have the protections in place, right? Like looking at structure. I mean, it's great to bring something in, but like how do we make sure in the end, where are we protected as a town if something was to break, the cap is exposed, all the other different things. But I'm definitely a person that's strong on the environment. And so I think the space is just kind of sitting there. So having these overlay that, I think is a great idea. Again, I've been watching some of the other solar projects around. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm hoping it's successful. So, my vote in favor of this is, giving it a shot. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns going into this, obviously. But let's, it's great for our environment, and I'm hoping that it's going to be great for Groton. So I thank you guys for your time, and hopeful that we will see where this goes, and hopefully in 20 years it grows even more. Maybe there's different opportunities, different ways. I mean, when you're looking at some of these solar things, they're even able now to, eventually they're proposing being able to put smaller and getting greater coverage with even smaller, I mean, the size of just right in front of you, compared to having 30 of those, that size, so there's technologies changing already. So where this can go down the road will be very interesting. So I'm hopeful, and And maybe there's some other incentives down the road to do this throughout the community in other areas where there's this land that's not necessarily being used, and there's an opportunity for proper use and gain, a gain-win situation for that. So again, I'm definitely in support of solar, and but I just want to make sure the fine tunes are all there that are protections for our town. So I'm hopeful to see where this goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I have a question. The approximate $228,000 a year, it said it's fixed, and that includes taxes and fees that we're going to receive as a town. And even if taxes go up over time, the fee will reduce, but it'll always equal out to be $228,000. Is that what I'm hearing?
Basically,
Yeah.
that's correct, yes.
There's a schedule in the back of the lease.
Yeah, the equipment depreciates over time, so there's a schedule in the tax agreement for that. And, and I suppose the property taxes will go up slightly over time, but, the town will always get the $228,000.
Okay. All right. Well, good to know, and I think also this is a wonderful idea. And over the course of 20 years, we're going to get an extra over $4 million from this, from land that is basically unusable for much of anything else, I think. And Mr. Hanover, you're very comfortable with this being on our landfill and the cap being safe. I know I've asked you this before, but I'm going to ask you again.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, this, the technology has proven itself that, these are going up all over the country, I'd say, on the closed landfills, and, and DEP is very supportive of this, and, they look at everything very closely, and as far as the construction and the details and everything, so I'm very comfortable with it.
All right, great. And I hope you're here for the next 20 years to oversee that, to make sure it's good.
I don't know about that.
So I thank you all, and this has been something that our community has really been asking for many years. Like, why can't we do this at our landfill? So this is very exciting to finally come to fruition, and I'm happy for our community who've been asking for this. All right, I see no more hands, so we're going to be voting on 2025-519 landfill solar lease. This is also setting a public hearing for July 1st, 2025. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 7-0. And I thank you all for coming.
Great, thank you.
I appreciate
Thank you
that.
for having us.
Thank you.
We look forward to doing this project
All
with
right,
you.
welcome to Groton.
Thank you.
I also want to announce that Counselor Parker has arrived, and I wrote down the time here somewhere.
Point of information?
Just a moment, please. Oh, here it is. She arrived at 7:15, and she is on Zoom remotely. Thank you.
Through the mayor to the town manager, could you send the slideshows from the last two presentations to us?
Sure.
Please, that way June 10th, I can be ready with my question.
All right, up next is 2025-414-2, the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act Program. Additional application, this is on our packet on page 51. Councilor Pacino, would you like to take that one?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Item 2025-414, 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act Program. Motion to recommend including Community of Hope to the resolution to schedule a public hearing for the Neighborhood Assistance Act Tax Credit Program on June 3rd, 2025. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pacino, seconded by Rusk. Hello, welcome back.
Hello. So just very quickly, sorry, a little feedback. The Neighborhood Assistance Act, we're having the public hearing that for our next application in June. This is an older application from 2023, but they're making some modifications to that application.
Oh, we got some feedback. Keep going, let's see if
Okay.
it does it again.
No, it's weird.
All right, I think we're good. So we were instructed by the state that they should actually submit an application with this current round showing that they're making a modification to their older application, so pretty straightforward.
Okay. Counselor Borderline.
I think this is great. It says it's a treatment facility for substance abuse for women, if I'm reading it correctly. I think that's great. And, you know, I think any opportunity for folks to get access is important, so definitely it's important.
I can't see Counselor Parker. She doesn't have a hand up, does she?
No.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other hands, we're going to vote on the 2025-414-2, 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act Program, additional applicant. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Counselor Parker, can you tell me your vote? Counselor Parker, I can't hear you.
Madam Mayor, she's just muted.
Is she muted, Counselor? Mr. Burt?
On her end, yes.
Hello?
Yes. Your vote on the Neighborhood Assistance Act Program, additional applicant.
Her hand is up.
Counselor Parker? She lost sound on our side, it said.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Your vote on the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act Program additional application?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes 7-0 to 0. Up next, 2025-447, suspense list, FYE 2025. This is in our packet on beginning on page 57. With the motion on page 58. Counselor Merritt, would you like to take that?
On item 2025-477, suspense list, FYE 2025. Motion to recommend a resolution to approve the suspense list, FYE 2025.
Second.
Second?
Motion by Merritt, seconded by Parker. Mr. Burt, did you want to?
We have Dee Morris and
Oh, is she
Melissa
online?
McGuire both online.
Okay. Did they want to give
Good
a?
evening, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
How are you all tonight? The amount listed is what has been determined by the tax collector for the annual amount that is deemed to be unpaid or uncollectible. And per state statute, we are able to turn this suspense list over to our collection agency so that the town is no longer responsible for billing for these taxes that we've billed for multiple times that are not being paid by the taxpayers. So we basically turn it over to the collection agency to be in charge of enforcing the collection of these taxes. They're still owed to the town with the interest and penalties. So for the amount this year, it has been a decrease. The total for the town sewer and Mumford Cove is a little over $490,000, which is a significant decrease from the list presented last year, which was about $715,000. So I do have Melissa McGuire is also online in case there's any questions.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hello.
So yes, so the majority of the decrease is from the motor vehicle suspense request for multiple billings remain unpaid or the mail is returned. As you know, we have a high volume of military presence here, and many use 1 Crystal Lake Road as a good mailing address for their motor vehicles, and those bills come back to us returned several times. The sewer district suspense request is lower than last fiscal year because of the decrease in number of companies that went out of business. We did have, just to note, the real estate that we are requesting for suspense we have 29 bills that were for mobile homes where the mobile home park has evicted the person or the mobile home. And there were 5 real estate bills that were town-owned. So we are requesting those as well to be suspended.
Thank you. Counselor Borderline.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys' efforts, and I'm happy to see the number has gone down, so thank you for that. Just a thought on the military. As a former military family and with currently 2 boys both in military travel, when we were stationed elsewhere for a short time, they had an extra line. If you checked the box and said you were current active duty military, they asked if you had a possible email or alternate address that you could be contacted in the event. Do we have anything like that here for our town?
Well, no, because the addresses we get are from when people register for their vehicle with the state of Connecticut, DMV. That's where the addresses are given. And at that time, so that would have to come from the state level to add that box. I do have a contact number of the post office on base. And I know we've put some flyers out over there to try to make the service members aware of any affidavits they might need to fill out. We do try our best to find these sailors or military personnel. Our collection agency does a fantastic job in being able to find these people because they do move around. And we have, I think, you do see the number decreased because of, their excellent effort of finding them, and we're able to get these bills resolved.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the decrease. I just know that when we lived in Maine, it too was driven by the DMV. And what they did is as soon as you registered something there, a letter came out within 30 days of a new registration to that town, municipality. And they sent a letter saying, welcome to the town of blank. And they said, if you are military, please, come in, or it would be great to have, any other form of contact as we know that you move. So just another catch basin thought idea, especially if they're using 1 Crystal Lake Road. What they were doing in Maine was sending it out newly when they got the registration, because you're capturing that person before the end of the payment year where that person may have already moved, and just said, in the event that you move, here's the steps, here's our contact, and here is, do you have any alternate way that you want us to reach you? Because most people's emails don't change year to year. So just, I don't know, just something I was just bringing up, but I do appreciate the numbers going down. Not sure if it's possible for us, just something I saw work well in another military community where we were at for a short time, because it is very hard and taxing to stay on top. Most people have, if they're unmarried, they have like family members out of state handling their financial affairs, and things like that. So I'm not sure if it's possible for a town, but, it could save us, because my other reason is a lot of these young men and women having something go to collections affects their clearance. So yes, once it goes to the collection officer, it's a lot for them. And some of these men and women are deployed so if this all gets sent off, the collection agency gets it in a month, these girls are deployed, they might not know that they've been in collection until 7 months when they return back home. So I'm just trying to think of another way if they don't have a spouse or anyone handling their affairs, another way where we could be, maybe be a little bit more proactive, just try to catch some of them a little bit sooner and get alternate communications for them, is a thought, that's all. Because of their security clearances are very hard, and finances is one of them, EB, Navy, because of their top secret clearances, they have to clear any debts immediately because it affects them getting renewed.
We don't report to the credit bureau, so they're just being reported to our collection agency and American National Recovery Group.
Sorry.
So I don't think, it's not affecting their credit rating.
About 14 seconds. My
Okay,
apologies.
yeah,
I
well,
thought
that's
I
good
hit
to
it.
hear. Is there any way that we can try to capture some of these ones that are identified as military earlier and sending out a letter of how they need to keep you guys informed of changes?
I can talk with the assessor's office, Mary Gardner. I need to see if she has a contact with DMV as to how we could, I don't believe when you register a car, you're given a possibility of giving an email. So we can talk to DMV and see what we can do to get some kind of information, a better contact information for these
Or is there a
military
way,
personnel.
or is there a way when we get that new person's registration that we send out an earlier email stating, hey, welcome to Groton, and here's our contact information should you need to change your addresses?
The DMV, all they give us is their mailing address. We do not get phone numbers, emails. That's all we get is a,
Time is expired.
I'll take my second.
Is there anybody else that wants to go first? First turn?
I just wanted to,
Counselor Rest?
Just a quick question. We've just spent some time talking about military or active duty vehicles. Don't we have a waiver in Groton for active duty members in car taxes?
yes, we do. We have if their home of record is out of state, there's an affidavit they have to fill out with the assessor's office, or if their home of record is Connecticut. Again, they fill out an affidavit with the assessor's office, but a lot of times the military, especially out of state, are not aware of our motor vehicle tax bills at all. So if they don't receive that initial bill, then they don't know they have the tax bill at all. That's the problem that we're running into.
So this feels more like an education thing than a tax thing. And hopefully we can perhaps get in touch with the ombudsman on the base and let them know rather than worrying about taxes on the backside. Hopefully we can just take care of it ahead of time. Thank you.
Counselor Bordelon?
what I was saying is, I know that you said that you didn't get emails, but I was saying when we get that initial address, the Crystal Lake one, if it is an education thing, like it says, the affidavit expires or whatever, maybe a letter from us could come out welcoming them to Groton. Do you know that you can put an affidavit in? Or sometimes other people don't qualify, under certain things, so just making sure something maybe went out sooner. That's what I was saying, at the current address, not email address, perhaps. That was my question.
But, yeah, the one Crystal Lake Road, the address we're given, if we mail something out to that one Crystal Lake Road, it will be returned to us. There's no other address given on the motor vehicle.
All right, I just,
But most,
I hear what you're saying. I just was trying to think of a way to, like, it is an education thing, and I know for myself, ours would expire, and we would just forget that we have to put a new one on when we got to a new command. That also would happen. And then we'd get a bill, and we're like, oops, and then my husband would be deployed, and we'd have to try to figure out how to get a letter, So I just was trying to see if there's a way, so besides the one Crystal Lake Road, all the other military ones, if we could possibly send something out, I don't know, it sounds like it is an education issue and a way of kind of contacting the community, and it would be a great way to welcome them and let them know, if possible, just to kind of nip it in the bud some, but it is going down, and just a thought, maybe it can't happen here in Groton. I just saw it done elsewhere and thought I'd bring it up. Thank you.
Mayor?
Mr. Brown?
I'll speak with the finance director tomorrow, I'm meeting with her. I think the ombudsman's a good idea. If they could just have the forms ready and give them, as part of the onboarding process, that would be great.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that too, is maybe if we have a form that we can provide to them that, as part of, on base, as they're doing a checklist of other forms that they need to complete, if they know that they're going to need to register a vehicle, they can be provided with this, blank form too, to say, if you have other contact information, can you please make sure you provide it and mail it back to the town hall?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely a great idea. And we have to kind of remember too that some of these folks that join the military at 18 have never registered a car on their own. And so that initial education and paperwork would be helpful to have. And they did that in Maine. They were like right on it. So I'm hopeful that we can do it here. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any more hands. So we're going to take a vote on 2025-447 suspense list FYE 2025. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7-0. Council will now take a recess from the cow, and we'll begin our town council special meeting. Do we want to take a recess before we begin the town council? All right, so we're going to take a recess. It is 7:56, and we're going to take a little recess here for about, I don't know, between 5 and 10 minutes. So. right, it's 8:11, and we are back from recess, and we are going to begin the Town Council special meeting agenda, May 27th, 2025. It is 8:11 p.m. The town clerk is online, and she usually takes a roll call.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay. Counselor Bordelon,
Here?
Jones,
He's not here.
McBride. Yes, sorry. McBride,
Here.
Merritt,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Pacino,
Here.
Rusk,
Here.
Mayor Franco.
I am here.
Okay. There's 7 in attendance.
Thank you. All right, up first is new business, 2025162 for alteration of a scenic road, 1130 River Road. Counselor Parker, would you like to take that one?
Okay. Am I reading the last whereas and the resolved, or you want me to read the whole thing?
You only have to do the title and result.
Title and resolve, Mr. Burt said, is the only requirement.
Okay. Resolution to approve alterations of a scenic road, 1130 River Road, whereas the proposed work does not change the width, paving, or grade of River Road. The proposed driveway apron will not change the character or adversely impact the neighborhood. Now therefore be it resolved, the town council approves the alterations of a scenic road, River Road, as presented. I so move.
Second, Pacino.
Moved by Parker, seconded by Pacino. I don't see any hands, so we're going to take a vote on 2025-162-4, alteration of a scenic road, 1130 River Road. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 7-0. Up next is 2025-415-2, scoreboard funding donation acceptance. This is on page 3 of the packet. Counselor Rusk, would you like to take that one?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Resolution accepting donations from Electric Boat and Fitch Middle School Booster Club for electronic scoreboards at Groton Middle School. Resolved that the Town Council accepts the donations from Electric Boat in the amount of $45,000 and the Fitch High School Booster Club in the amount of $5,000 to be used towards the purchase of 2 electronic scoreboards for fields at Groton Middle School, and refer the $45,000 donation from Electric Boat to the RTM for approval per Rule 6.5.3. So moved.
Second,
Moved by
Pacino.
Russ, seconded by Pacino.
Point of information,
Your question.
has this not already been approved by the RTM?
It has.
Yes, but contingent upon town council approval.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Bordelon.
Yeah, I full support, and I'm happy that Electric Boat is, helping to support its community, so that's huge. I have concerns that the Booster Club is putting $5,000, I know they want to, but on the heels after the meeting I just left, where funding is being cut to swimming and being proposed to be cut to a lot of things because of the lack of funding that the school board has this year. I don't know, I kind of feel like the Booster Club could use that money to help offset some of the losses that they may be experiencing soon. It's $5,000, but to a booster club, that's a lot of money, because it's usually money raised from the parents that chip in and pay dues and things like that, or food purchased. I don't know, is there, I guess through the mayor to the town manager, is there any way the town has any funding of $5,000 so that that money can stay with the Booster Club? I mean, to us, it's only just $5,000 from the town
Right.
side.
It's too late to do anything in this fiscal year. It would have to be looked at in July, under the new fiscal year.
So how would I have to do that? Propose that we refund the Booster Club with a referral?
I think that should really come from the Board of Ed personally, though. They could always, even with this approval, they could opt to turn it down.
I know, but I understand and I respect your opinion, but my thought is, we were doing quite well overall, and, there could be a way that we could reimburse the Booster Club, because that's a volunteer program. That's not really Board of Ed money. So I'm just putting it out there that it would be fiscally responsible, and we should be investing in, EB brought all the money. We're just looking at $5,000, and I think our town side has the money. And it's not the Board of Ed's money that's coming, it's the parents' money that's going into a club, basically, that they donate to help offset costs when things aren't being funded. And due to the cuts that the Board of Ed is experiencing, I think that $5,000 really could go to offset other things. So I'm asking, could I make a referral, and when should I do that to ask to reimburse the Booster Club? How would that have to go?
This
Like
would be
any
an official action, so you'd have to take an action to undo it, because you are accepting it tonight.
So why do we have to wait? We do transfers all the time.
We're out of contingency, because fourth quarter transfers, it's too late to do it now to get it through the RTM, and we're out of contingency with what we're approving tonight for contingency.
Again, I thank the parents of the Booster Club, and I'm sure past parents' money are part of that from all the years of donating from fencing and other sports like track and time. It's just sad to me that money for the scoreboard has to come from their pockets when they already pay taxes, and that money is to help offset other things when they can. And I just think the town could cough up $5,000 to help with that scoreboard after EB is footing the majority of the bill. But if there's nothing more to do, I just put it on the record that I have a concern with it, and it would be great if there was some way that we could, put that money back so it can be used elsewhere. The Booster Club, as far as I know, are in full support of doing it, obviously, because their goal is to get that scoreboard. But I just feel bad if I'm saying that's all fundraising money that they're using. And the town has the money on the town side too, to invest in the infrastructure if we chose. But if it's too late now, that's fine. I just want to be on the record. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Merritt.
I would suggest that the beginning of this discussion should have gone to the Booster Club with their donation, instead of us making up the minds for them.
No, they've offered it, we're just accepting it.
Correct.
Yeah.
But to
Oh,
return
to
it,
return it, okay, yeah.
that part of the discussion should be taken up with them first. We can go through all the time we want, and they'll say, no, we want it the way it is.
Thank you. Councilor Bordelon.
Again, my reasoning is, as a person who's raised money for the Booster Club from fundraising, it's all parents' volunteer money. And so I was just merely asking, I don't know what one person from a Booster Club would say, oh, no, you don't want to take our $5,000, you're going to actually pay that, and we can hold the parents' money that they pay dues for. I'm sure they'd be in support of it. But if it's too late now, then that is fine. I just think parents are overtaxed and overpaid, charged, and that money was set up by parents a while back when things weren't being properly funded by the towns. When they didn't want to lose things, they used that as an enhancement to help buy gear and shirts and things that they
Point
didn't
of order. Do we have to keep going over this again and again?
Councilor Bordelon does have a right to state her opinion during her time.
She's done already.
Thank you.
And she repeats it.
Thank you.
Point of order,
Your point of order.
decorum, and respect.
What is your? what
I asked
decorum?
for it to stop the aggression towards me. I have a right to speak during my time.
I don't find that to be aggression.
Well, I do. Again, as I stated, when would you like me to speak? I get 2 chances. I have a right to repeat myself.
Councilor Bordelon, you cannot speak directly to other councilors, so if you have something to say, please do so.
I just don't like the side hims and haws because I speak. I have a right to speak during my time, and I like the floor. So, with that being said, I will state again, I just find it very frustrating that our parents, the volunteer group, has to foot the bill when the town has a general fund, as hefty as it does, and its infrastructure, and that money that is raised could be used to offset other things that are more important, like if a kid doesn't have something or a sports thing is cut and they need it for a field trip or uniforms or whatever that may be, an extra timer. But if we're too late now, that is fine. But I think in future, and it's something I had thought of, is that I feel from a town side, we could come up with $5,000 to help support this scoreboard and not take it out of a volunteer booster club funding, is all I'm saying. So with that, if there's nothing we can do, I'm just merely stating that, it's infrastructure and we should be supporting it. Thank you.
Councilor Rusk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to Electric Boat. It's exciting to see them make this big donation to our schools. I also want to say thank you to the Booster Club for funding the $5,000 through the mayor to the town manager to address Councilor Bordelon's concerns. This $5,000 was first accepted by the Board of Ed, correct?
Correct.
And then in kind of a reverse order, it was accepted by the RTM, and then now, if we accept it tonight, if for some reason we said, no, we don't want to accept the $5,000 from the Booster Club, it
Go
would
back to the Board of Ed.
It would go back to the Board of Ed. It would postpone this vote for another month at least?
Yes.
Okay. I know we received emails on this quite a while ago. I understand your concern. I'm sorry. I understand Councilor Bordelon's concern about the $5,000. However, it feels like it should have been something that was done at the Board of Ed level before it trickled down to us, now being the third body to look at this. So hopefully in the future, that can happen. Tonight, I'm going to accept this, and I apologize because I thought I hit my time, but I will finish long before 3 minutes. I'm going to move to accept this and to not delay this any further. And thank you to everyone who had money, who donated money. That's it.
Thank you.
Point of clarification,
Your question?
or I want to, or parliamentary inquiry, or point of parliamentary privilege. I just want to be clear, I'm not in support of moving this on or delaying it.
That's not a
Okay.
parliamentary privilege.
So how could I say that then?
You can't. Your time has expired.
Just want to clear the record that I'm not.
Point of order.
Your point of order.
I just find it challenging that Councilor Bordelon had a problem when another councilor continued to speak or made noise, and yet has just done it herself. So I'm asking for the same respect. I'm asking for the same respect that you are requesting for all councilors. Thank you.
Concur, thank you. All right, well, seeing no other hands, I thank Electric Boat, I thank the Booster Club, but I do want to make a correction. The Board of Ed did not get cut. The Board of Ed actually got a 4.6% increase, is the way it's coming down the pike here. So that is not a cut to their budget. So with all that being said, we'll take a vote on 2025-415-2, the scoreboard funding donation acceptance. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7-0. Up next, 2025-266-1, CT, Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority Partnership, setting a public hearing. In our packet, this begins on page 4. Councilor McBride.
2025-266 Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority Partnership, setting a public hearing. Resolution to set a public hearing for the Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority Partnership, whereas the authority, a body politic and corporate constituting a public instrumentality and political subdivision of the state of Connecticut, has been established pursuant to 8169 II of the Connecticut General Statutes, and whereas the authority was established through legislation signed by Governor Lamont and is a quasi-public state entity that partners with municipalities to help grow their downtowns by expanding housing opportunities around transit hubs. And whereas the Connecticut MRDA is identifying municipalities to opt in as a partner with approved communities gaining first selection for redevelopment grant funding. And whereas the town of Groton has the opportunity to partner with Connecticut MRDA and receive support in reaching the town's economic development goals and key focus areas. And whereas the Town of Groton Office of Planning and Development Services is responsible for scheduling appropriate public hearings with the Town Council to meet the authority, state statute requirements, be it resolved that the Town Council hereby sets a public hearing for the Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority Partnership on June 3rd, 2025.
Second.
Moved by McBride, seconded by Rusk. Counselor Borderline.
Again, this is something I think is great. It's a good opportunity. I'm happy to see some new applicants on here. In the past, it was the same few, so this is nice to see some different people that are, reaching out and are making an attempt at the program. I'm also happy to see the town is submitting something, so that is good. And hopefully, I'm sorry?
I said nothing.
Oh, you just shook your head, so I didn't know if you were talking to me.
I think you're on the wrong resolution.
Oh, sorry. I flipped my page. I take my comment back. I flipped ahead. Thank you. Discard my comments. I'll save it for the next one.
Okay, seeing no other hands, we're going to take a vote on 2025-266-1 CT Municipal Redevelopment Authority Partnership, setting a public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention. Passes 7-0. Up next, 2025-416-1 Pleasant Valley Property Sale, setting a public hearing. This is on page 6 of our packet. Counselor Pacino, would you like to take that one?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. Item 2025-416, Pleasant Valley Property Sale, setting a public hearing. Whereas the Town of Groton, through the Property Sale Review Committee, solicited interest in developers through the RFP process and subsequent interviews with the PSRC, has chosen Spinnaker Acquisitions, LLC, as the preferred developer for the Pleasant Valley School property. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Council hereby authorizes the Town Manager to schedule a public hearing for June 3rd, 2025, for the process of selling the Pleasant Valley School property consistent with CGS 7-163 Echo.
So, a second.
Moved by Pacino, seconded by Parker. I just want to make one correction. I think you said proposes, it was purposes, the word. But I just want to I just wanted to correct that, just in case. All right. All right, seeing no hands, we're going to take a vote on 2025-416-1 Pleasant Valley Property Sale, setting a public hearing. All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Sorry. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions. Passes 7-0. Up next, 2025-414-3 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act Program, setting a public hearing. This is in our packet on page 7. Counselor Merritt, would you like to take that one?
Thank you. On request for council discussion or action, 2025-414, Neighborhood Assistance Act Program, setting for a public hearing. Whereas the Town of Groton Office of Planning and Development Services is responsible for the schedule appropriate public hearings with the town council to review said proposals. And now, therefore, it be resolved that the town council hereby sets a public hearing for the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act for June 3rd, 2025.
Second,
So
Pacino.
moved.
Moved by Merrick, seconded by Pacino. Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. So what I was trying to say before, and I flipped ahead, is basically I'm happy to see new applicants have applied, and also that the town is applying as well. So hopefully it goes through, and it's good to see new applicants.
right, seeing no other hands, we're going to take a vote on 2025-414-3, 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act Program, setting a public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 7-0 to 0. Up next, 2025-417-1, Community Investment Fund Application. This is on page 9 of our packet. Counselor Parker, did you want to take that one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution endorsing the submittal of an application to the State of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, DECD, for Round 7 of the Connecticut Community Investment Fund, CIF grant program. Whereas it is desirable and in the public interest that the town of Groton make a second application to the state CIF for $9,800,000 for the reconstruction and upgrade of the Shore Avenue seawall. Now therefore be it resolved by the Groton Town Council, one that is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for the state financial assistance proposed by Section 112 of Public Act 21-111. Number 2, the filing of the applications for the state financial assistance in the CIF by the town of Groton in amount not to exceed $10,050,000 is hereby approved, and that John Burt, town manager, is directed to execute and file such applications with the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development to provide such additional information, to execute such other documents as may be required, to execute an assistance agreement with the state of Connecticut for state financial assistance, if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, decisions, and revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the town of Groton. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Parker, seconded by Rusk. All right, seeing no hands, we're going to take a vote on 2025-417-1, Community Investment Fund Application. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 7-0 to 0. We will adjourn our town council meeting. Make a
motion to adjourn.
made by Rusk,
Second.
seconded by Pacino. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, that passes 7-0 to 0. It is 8:34. And we will go back to our regular town council cow agenda. And we are going to pick up on 5E, 2025-288-1, Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. This is in our packet on page 64. Counselor Rusk, would you like to take that one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 2025-228, Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. I make a motion to recommend a resolution to adopt the 2025 Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan to be used as a guiding document for the town of Groton to improve community connectivity. So moved.
Second, Pacino.
Moved by Russ, seconded by Pacino. Good evening.
Good evening.
Would you like to introduce yourselves and
Sure.
give us an overview of your presentation?
Mark Berry, Director of Parks and Recreation. To my right is Nicole DeTora, who is from FHI. I'm getting my consultants mixed up. FHI, who put together the Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. We were here, and also Zooming is Francisco Gomes. We were here back in March, made a presentation to the council, listened to comments, suggestions, took those, and it was a draft that was presented. We also went back to the planning department and to Public Works and got their feedback. All of that information was submitted to FHI, who went and updated the plan. And there is a summary of all of the different aspects of the plan that they either updated or noted that were outside the original scope of the project.
I'm sorry, there's noise in the galley. Can we please have noise stopped in the galley? Thank you.
So at this time, I think either or both Nicole and Francisco may go over those changes and answer any questions that the council may have.
And Mark, yeah, I'm happy to weigh in with just an overview of the type of updates and revisions that we made in response to comments received. And Mark did a nice job of setting it up for us. And for the record, Francisco Gomes with FHI Studio, it's very good to be with you again. So we were fortunate in that we had the Planning Commission, Planning Department, and DPW and the town engineer review the plan, provide us comment, and so that was very productive. It assisted us quite a bit with making some final revisions and updates to the plan to ensure that it's going to best serve the town. And that really started with the name of the plan. Our operating name had been the Complete Streets and Trails Plan. But this plan is really directed towards bicycles and pedestrians, and it seeks to better connect the town's trail network, but it's not a plan for the trails themselves. So we retitled the plan as the Complete Streets Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. So it's part of an overall Complete Streets effort, but it's one component addressing bicycle and pedestrian connectivity across the town. So I think that's probably one of the most noticeable changes. Outside of that, we did, the plan is, it continues to be a very thick document with a lot of content, but we did, however, reduce a little bit of material. There was some redundant content to try to make it a little more manageable of a document. At the same time, we expanded their overall description of complete streets, what they are, and how this plan fits into the overall complete streets policy for the town. We updated maps to improve their readability and legibility. We provided more detail as requested by the planning department. We provided more detail on the sidewalk recommendations so that the planning department can really make that a stipulation of an application, development application before them, that they build out sidewalks as recommended by this plan. We also provided additional guidance as requested regarding bus stop design, bicycle service stations. So we included that content in the toolbox. We provided additional discussion about the many constraints and the feasibility constraints that are present for many of the plan's recommendations, whether they be a side path, sidewalk, or bicycle facility. And those range from topography, right-of-way, permitting, DOT coordination, easements, potential property acquisition. So we provided more discussion about that. We also made multiple updates to the concept plans. We produced concept plans, which are basically like conceptual level or preliminary plan drawings that could then be advanced to design. We developed those concepts for the Route 1 corridor, for Route 215 and Route 117. And most of the feedback we had on those was really interest in improved pedestrian crossings at multiple locations. So we improved all three of those concept plans to provide more pedestrian crossing improvements, including bump outs, additional crosswalks, improved signage, and those types of improvements, along with some other improvements that were requested by the town engineer. In so doing, we updated the cost estimate to reflect all of those changes. And those are all, I think, the most substantive items. Of course, there were things like correcting some street names that were named road instead of street, or vice versa. So there was some typos and those sorts of corrections. But what I just described is what I would consider to be the substantive changes to the plan. There were some requests that came before us that we documented that we did not include because, as Mark mentioned, it was either outside our scope of services, or the requests regarding data that's simply not available to us. without doing manual traffic counts, speed counts, or pedestrian or bicycle counts, which also outside of our scope of work. And all that is documented in our summary memo of the changes that were made. So we think this plan is going to be very effective for the town in helping to guide the development of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and hopefully helping the town leverage grants to help to fund those improvements. And with that being said, I'm happy to yield the microphone and receive any comments or questions that you may have.
I'm seeing no hands. So guess we'll take a vote on 2025-228-1, the Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. And this is us voting to accept it. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7-0 to 0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next, 2025-517, athletic fields discussion, bond ordinance creation. This begins in our packet on page 68. Counselor McBride, would you like to take that one?
Sure. The item is athletic fields discussion, bond ordinance creation. I'd like to make a motion to recommend a resolution to accept the present four-phase bond plan for the athletic field improvements at Fitch High School, Sutton Park, and the former Claude Chester Elementary, and to authorize the town's bond council to prepare the bond ordinance for issuance of Phase 1 bonds.
Second. Did you second that? Yes. Thank you. Motion by McBride, seconded by Rusk. Mr. Burt.
Good evening. As you recall, at the last meeting, the town council directed me to work with applicable parties to create a final four-phase approach for the athletic fields with the intent of holding a bond referendum at the November 4th, 25 election for the first phase. If you look at page 69 and 70 in your packet, those are simply the original presentation of what's included for all the construction that's requested. And then moving on to page 71, you'll see the actual four-year approach.
Mr. Burt, is it possible to put that on the screen? Page 71.
Let me share the screen. Okay, looking at the first column, Phase 1, which would be this November's referendum, you'll see it includes the stadium renovations, including the multi-use, including the football field, track and field, all of the facilities to do with that, the press box, grandstand, lighting, public restrooms near the stadium, concessions, ticketing and storage building, and then the parking lot. Altogether, that cost is $14,380,200. So that would be what would go before the public in November. The second phase would be Claude Chester, pretty much everything at Claude Chester, the multi-use fields, the restrooms and storage buildings, school demolition, site amenities, softball. One thing that is new here is a small enhancement at the middle school to the softball field was included for $200,000 to allow for high school teams to play on the field, so it makes it more usable. And then starting with that second year, Chad Frost, the architect, has added a 3% escalator going up each year, so 3% the first year, 6%, 9%, assuming you go with one-year increments. So that first escalator there, 27, you'll see is about $403,000. The third phase would be Fitch High School, the synthetic multi-use practice field, field house renovations, upper restrooms, and then, of course, again, the escalation cost. Moving into phase 4 would be the Sutton Park work, baseball field, site amenities, softball field and improvements, restrooms and concessions. At Fitch High School, softball field if needed. Again, there may be enough usability out of middle school that may leave this as not needed. We'll just have to see how it evolves. And then again, the escalation cost. So the total cost of the project with the escalators included is $60 million, of course, before interest as we go, but $60,368,420. And then moving on to that's actually the payment, again, this will change once you actually put the bonds out for sale, but this is the finance persons, our finance advisors, preliminary projection on the bond impact. And again, you'll see the first time for 26 to 27, FYE 26-27, you'll see the Fitch High School cost that year for the bond at $647,300. And I should mention, these bonds are set to 15 years. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. And then, but the total impact, because of some of our other bonds dropping that year, the net impact, if you count those together, would be about $320,000 extra that year. But you can see through that chart that it goes through each year as you add in each bond phase. So this first phase, by the time you pay off the bonds for the entirety of phase 1, it'd be $19,623,500 approximately. And then moving on to the next page, the calendar. As I've mentioned, we have a pretty tight calendar to get this done in time. It has to be approved the first week of September. The language for the referendum by the town council that week. So you'll see on page 73, the list of all the steps. We're at step 1 there on that list. The COW determining the project will move forward. Next week, you'll authorize, assuming you want to move forward, you'll authorize the preparation of the bond ordinance. And then you have to introduce and act upon the bond ordinance in later June. And then at the July meeting, you would set a public hearing. You send it to Planning and Zoning Commission for review for the 824 required review. You have to post the certain requirements for posting the public hearing. The public hearing would be held on July 22nd, a special meeting on the same day as a COW to meet the timelines. And then on August 5th, you would receive the report, you would approve the ordinance and refer it to the representative town meeting. You have to send a certain notice to the representative town meeting, and then they would hopefully approve. Of course, it goes through committee, but typically they're pretty good about doing it right before the actual meeting. So it would go to the August 13th representative town meeting. So when it passes that, it comes back to, it would get published. The passage of the ordinance would be published in the newspaper, and then at the September 2nd town council meeting, you'll actually set the referendum date, approve the ballot question, and authorize the explanatory text. So we have to take each of these steps as per that schedule if we want to make it for this year. I suppose I'll go on to the next page. I neglected to mention the next page, 74. So by 9/19, September 19th, that's the last date for the town clerk to file the referendum ballot with the Secretary of State. October 6th to October 15th, the notice of election and referendum, publishing requirements, and then early voting starts October 20th through November 2nd, and then the referendum will be held on November 4th.
And just a very quick question. What is the last date that we could change our mind?
Well, once you go through that process of setting everything on September 2nd, it gets submitted to the state, the referendum moves forward, it stays on the ballot. Now, let's say let's say the bottom drops out of the federal funding, you can always choose to not move forward at that time with the results of the referendum. You could hold, there's a certain amount of time you could hold it, and I believe you can hold it for a few years. I know I've reported to the council before, exactly how long, but I forgot, it was a few years, at least 3 years. So you could hold it, see how things evolve. You don't have to move forward.
So
The
anytime-
referendum allows you to move forward. It does not require you to move forward.
Okay, I appreciate that. Counselor Pacino.
Through the mayor to the town manager, quick question. You said early voting starts 10:20 to 11:02, and then on the 4th of November, the referendum. So the referendum will not be part of the early voting?
Yes, you have the
It
early
will
voting
be?
and then you have the day of voting.
Okay, all right, so it will be
That'd
on
be,
the early
yeah,
voting?
the question would be on all, on
Okay,
each, yes.
it just
Yes.
seemed a little odd to me.
Yes,
All right,
yeah.
I'm good. I'm a big old yes.
Counselor Bordelon.
A couple questions. I know some people have the concerns with the order. Why is 1 and then 3 not really the next one, switching 2 and 3? So are we set today on this order? That's my first question.
No, the only thing that you'll really be set on is for the first phase. Other things can be changed. Now, Mark Romano, Mark Berry, and Chad Frost, the architect, met, and their belief was this was about the order it needed to go into, but you will go through the same process that you're doing this year for the current referendum. You will do that all again 3 more times if you choose to do those other ones. And so as we get into it later, into the second year, the council could direct, we could have more meetings and direct it to be changed, or come and explain why it needs to be done this way. So there's plenty of time to change it. The only thing you're really bound to is phase 1.
Yeah, because what I heard from the community, I speak for myself, is they really want a Fitch done first. So the order I heard would be 1, 3, 2, 4. That's what I heard from the community majority. And that was a concern that I've got a lot of responses for. So I'm concerned with this. With that, it's also, I heard from the community, and again, I'm not speaking for or against, I'm just speaking for the community of what I heard. This states what type of fields we're using. When was that determined?
That's just what the Chad Frost included. There's ongoing discussions.
But we haven't had a decision. I mean, the last discussion we
Yeah.
had was, we're
You'll have-
leaving that part open. So here it has it very defined that this first phase has a synthetic field. Again, I'm not saying I'm for or against. My job is to speak on behalf of the whole community. And I don't know when we've had those discussions. Phase 2 here says 2 storage and softball, then 3 says synthetic again. Again, that has not really been discussed as to what the structure and the content of that. My other concern is, I think this needs to be put out correctly. I just want to make sure that it's put out correctly because I've already gotten misinformation, is that, oh, yes, they're approving it all, and they're just going to phase it in. And I said, I heard of the phase-in, but the referendum, each one, the second one may never make it to referendum based on this. Is that correct? Tonight, we're not saying when we vote, whoever's up here for the next phase may never send it to referendum, and phase 2 may never happen, depending on what people decide.
That's correct,
Okay.
and we made that very clear at
Right.
earlier meetings.
So I just want to be clear, because some people asked, and they were like, no, I heard they're going to do it all, and they're just phasing it in. It's not a guarantee it's all going to be done. It's yes being phased in. So how can we guarantee that we're going to phase it all in and that it's all going to be done? Because that's the vote that I want. I think it all should be done, and I think it should be phased in. That's what the community wants to hear, a defined lock-in that we're committed to doing this versus we're just doing phase 1 and we may go to referendum, May 3, May 4. That's just, that the community says that's not, what I'm hearing from folks, it's not a guarantee.
No, it's not a guarantee, but I don't think there's anything you can do at this point. It's up to each council subsequently to determine what they want to do.
I mean, I've seen other towns pass all phases in one swoop.
Yeah.
You can't do that?
This council chose not to do that.
That's what I'm asking.
We'd have to rework.
So it's a choice of the council.
Yes, but at this point, I'm not sure we can make November then, to backtrack.
I just want to be clear, it's a choice of the council. It could
Yes,
have been
and
done
that's what they
where
chose, yes.
we could have agreed and voted on all of this, all 4 phases with this council leaving it so whoever's up here next time has to take those orders marching forward. But the way that this council's putting it forward is they're leaving it to each year is not guaranteed. So it's open-ended each year. And that's a concern for me. Because that to me, I'll take my next turn after. But that's a concern. It's not a full commitment. It's a, maybe it will happen.
Mr. Burt?
I just wanted to make one point on the specifics in here. The actual ballot language we're going to recommend, you're going to want that to be somewhat broad, because let's say you have some money left over, you don't want to say it's just for these. So you'll have some decision making to do later, like on a synthetic turf. But generally speaking, you're going to make it broad enough that if you have 500,000 left over, you're going to be able to use that in other phases. You don't want to define, say only for these items, period, without any flexibility. So there'll be some evolution to this.
Correct. Anybody else? Councilor McBride?
Yeah, thank you. I for one, want to say I'm all for this plan. However, I have concerns over the phased-in, let me rephrase that. I do not have concerns over phased-in approach. I have concern over the total bond ordinance being piecemeal. So I'm not going to support this measure, because I truly believe we should be appropriating the entire 60 million, and then we should be doing a phased-in approach on a construction site. But I think we should be going to the residents, asking them for a $60 million appropriation, and then moving forward in a phased-in approach. And it's certainly, in my opinion, not a 4-year phased approach, because I'd find it impossible to do this in 4 years. So I don't know if I can make a motion to change. I know it's a consent, actually, I want to make a motion because I think it's a consensus of the council. They want, everybody wants to do that. So I just disagree with that approach. I think it should be a full appropriation. If the residents vote it down, then we could do a piecemeal approach at that point in time. But I would prefer to do a full appropriation and give the council and the residents the information that we're moving forward and completing all 4 different phases. I also have concerns over the 15 years. As I pointed out, and I asked Town Manager Burt, the schools and all the other major construction projects that we do are financed over 20 years. This proposal is financing over 15 years. And I think if we looked at the bond debt schedule, the annual debt service goes up to $12.3 million, which is almost a $3 million increase. And I think we should be extending those bonds to 20 years and not 15 years. And the reason being is the residents are going to receive the benefit of this construction well over a 20-year timeframe. So I believe it should be financed over a longer term. Some places now are actually financing over 30 years. Yes, I understand there's a greater cost overall in interest, but the benefit that's being provided to the residents, those residents in years 16 through 20 are going to be paying for something that they will be enjoying the benefit of, and I think they should be sharing the cost of that. So although I'm all in favor of this project, I'm not in favor of the current motion as it stands with the phased-in approach and not appropriating it entirely and the 15 years. But I am in support of moving forward with these projects. Thank you.
I just want to make it clear to the counselors that are sitting here that if this fails tonight, it can't come back for a year. So I just want you to recognize what you are doing when you make a vote, that it cannot come back for a year unless there are 6 counselors in favor of doing that. And that what Mr. Burt has brought forward to us was what the consensus of this council as a whole had said, that this is what they were comfortable with to move forward, and this is the work he did and brought forward. So, and that there are other items that I am hearing people discuss, that as a whole, people were not comfortable with this, but this was I would consider the compromise that was made of how to bring it forward to get to the point where we're at this moment. And also, when I look at the schedule on our, Mr. Burt had put up on, I believe it's on page 72, you have to also remember that if the market crashes or our funding crashes in the upcoming years, that those numbers for phase 2, 3, and 4 would not be part of this calculation and showing the annual changes in debt services. That number would change. So, so the vote tonight, from what I'm hearing Mr. Burt say, is that by November 2nd, prior to that, is when we can actually halt it so it doesn't go to the referendum if something changes and the funding from our schools drastically gets changed from the federal government or the state, and we have to make other choices. But I will be supporting this. I have heard from our community for a very long time that they want sports fields. This is a way to have it happen. This is a way to not overburden our community by saying it's all for or nothing. And I also have heard through this council that putting 60 million on a referendum has a good possibility of, from hearing from previous referendums, it might be too much for our community to swallow all at once, especially in the economic times we are in. So this was the compromise I think I've heard from the council. So I will be in favor of going forward with this as it is outlined on page 73 and 74. Councilor Bordelon.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate your concerns with the direction and the statement that if this doesn't pass, then the consensus, I definitely wasn't part of the consensus. Like you, I also was on the Athletic Fields Task Force, and I'm a strong supporter of our Fitch Athletic Fields. What I asked for, though, was a guarantee that all 4 phases would go through, not, possibly. And this is not a guarantee. So that's my concern. What our community wanted, and I heard loud and clear, even if the bottom falls out, we have an obligation to fix the infrastructure no matter. So even if your paycheck changes, you got to fix your leaky roof. There comes a point where you have to fix it. And unfortunately, for over 50 years, nobody's done anything. So it's sat. We've had lead in the water down at the field house. We have adequate anything down there. So it's not ADA compliant. So my concern is, yeah, I'm all in support of it. I do not like this phase-in approach that's not guaranteed, because I think there's a better way. There's a better way to say, yeah, we can do a phase-in approach, but if we really care about fields, let's as a council say, we're moving forward with all 4 phases and it's going to go through. That's a strong statement. That's a statement that we care about our sports fields. That's my opinion. So if we do, then we as a council bringing it forward would be putting forward that we are standing behind all 4 phases and not, well, when we get to that phase, we may put it through, but we may not. So at this point, I'm going to feel obligated to support whatever phase, because again, I'm in support of it because something's better than nothing, but I am concerned with the wording. So through the mayor to the town managers, I asked again, these words in here aren't locked in. I just want to make sure that's on the record because the people will rise up and that we're against, they want to say on synthetic versus natural fields. Is this locking us in by the wording here?
No, this is not. This is just generally your approval. It's not one of the official documents other than recommending approval.
Yeah, again, I can appreciate the sentiments of Councilor McBride and what he's stating. I think it does send a message, like we're going to spend more over time. Why not put the full number to the community? And if the community wants it and votes it in, then it doesn't matter what the 9 of us want. The community spoke. That's who we serve. That's who makes the decisions in the town. We're here as elected representative of our community. So I think if we truly heard what they wanted athletic fields and they wanted Fitch done first, which this order does not do. But again, if this is all I have to vote on, I'm going to vote for the phased what's here. But I was not part of that consensus that agreed to this form of a phase-in. And I just wanted to be very clear to the community that these fields may never get done, possibly. We don't know. Phase 1 could sit and we'll be in the same predicament we've been in for 50 years. This is a Band-Aid, not a full fix. It's not a guarantee. So before it's celebrated in its entirety, that I think it needs to be clear because I think a lot of people are unclear as to how this is moving forward. Thank you.
Councilor Rusk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to repeat what I said last time we talked about this. This hasn't been done for 50, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, let me run that for a couple seconds. It's my normal job. Okay. So this hasn't been done for 50 years, and we're looking at $60 million. And I don't want to put $60 million on the ballot and have it fail, because I think there are a lot of people right now, I see them every day that I'm at work, who cannot afford groceries, much less are going to look at a $60 million loan, bond, and say, yeah, let's go for that. I want this to pass. I want all 4 phases to pass. I want it to pass in an economically feasible way for our community. I think all of these are important, absolutely. I'm still hopeful that we can find other ways to fund this, but at this point, this is the way we're doing it. If somebody wants this done a different way, they have the ability to make a motion to change how we're doing this. But at this point, this is how this council has deemed this as possibly passing. So I am definitely in favor of all of this happening, all of these renovations. I just think we need to do it in a fiscally sound way, and this is how I feel that we can do it. It's not going to happen in 4 years. All of this renovation is not going to happen in 4 years. So hopefully, and by saying that, I mean physically cannot happen in 4 years, likely. I want it to all happen. I'm hopeful that our community will stand behind this and pass these referendums. Thank you.
Mr. Burr, I can't see online Counselor Parker in case she has her hand up.
She does have it up.
Okay, Counselor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I previously stated, I'm against this. For one, there are several families who are not going to be utilizing this. This is mainly, you're saying it's athletic fields. Yes, some families will use it, but not a lot of the residents are going to use this field. If we were going to do something, I would feel it would benefit everyone. Hence, there was something else we could have brought forth. But I don't feel we can do this right now. We do not know what the economy is going to be like in the next 5 to 6 months or the next several years. I don't want to put any more burden on the taxpayers at all. So for me, I know we discussed this. It was consensus at the time, but I'm still a no. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor McBride.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Town Manager Burt. The motion mentions to prepare the bond ordinance. So I would read that as there's flexibility still whether or not we want to do 15 or 20 years in the future, correct?
Well, I think that's going to be included in the ordinance.
So even though it doesn't state 15 years, that will be?
I believe it'll be in the
It will
ordinance
be in the
itself,
ordinance,
yes.
okay. All right, thank you for the clarification.
I can't swear to it, but I believe that's the case.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to try something differently here. I'm going to propose a motion,
Making amended motion?
making an amended motion to recommend a resolution to accept a full $61 million bond ordinance for the completion of the athletic field improvements at Fitch High School, Sutton Park, and former Colchester Elementary, and to authorize the town's bond council to prepare the bond ordinance.
I'll second that.
And my main reason is, as I discussed before, I think we should be going out and asking the residents if they want to go forward with the full boat versus doing it piecemeal. And from a financing perspective, I totally understand everybody's concern about the taxpayer cost. However, if we were to do a 20-year debt service, as I discussed previously, over 20 years at 40,000 residents, it would be $104 per resident per year for this, all of this being appropriated. So although it is an increase, it's a reasonable increase because it's spread across such a large amount of residents, and I think it's something we should move forward with for the town, because as Councilor Russ stated, this probably won't be done for another 50 years, and I think we should go for it now and at least make sure if the residents want to move forward with all of it, and if they do not, we could always come back to the drawing board next year and try the piecemeal approach. Thank you.
Point of information.
Your question.
May I ask the number that you said it would be per resident?
I had the total cost at $83,245,299. 20-year debt service would be, this is straight line amortization, $4,162,226 per year. If I divide that by 40,000 residents, I come up with $104 per resident each year for 20
Including
years.
children.
I just did the 40,000, yeah.
Yeah.
So household, if it's three, average 3 or 4, that's
Population's
400.
38, yeah.
I just did rough numbers, just to show that you're spreading it up a lot of years, a lot of people. It's still costly, but it's spread out for over a long period of time.
Point of clarification?
Your question?
I just want to make sure, so just to recap, you're in full support with the full thing going forward, not the phased-in approach. That's the motion that I seconded.
That's correct. It's asking for a bond ordinance for the full 61 million appropriation.
Perfect, thank you.
Point of information.
Your question.
I would ask through you to Counselor McBride, that $104 per person is only per person who registered a car or owns a house, I would
No.
imagine.
He did it by 40,000 residents
I
in the town of
understand
Groton.
that, but
That's
not all
how-
40,000 new residents
Pay taxes,
pay
I know.
taxes. So, a family of 5.
Are you taking your turn?
Nope. That was it. That was my question.
Counselor Bordelon?
Again, I'm in full support of the fields. I think this really puts it out there, and like you said, put it out to referendum. Let's see what the people get back, and then we can move into this other phase. But to assume that the community doesn't want the phased-in approach right away, wants the full amount up and they want a phased-in approach, I feel like we're speaking for the community. I think this is a better thing that says, we want it, and if the community votes it down, let them vote it down. And then we come back to the drawing board and we go with the phased approach. Pretty simple. We need to send a message, and it's very important that this gets done. But I think I just think we're saying a lot for everybody else. Let the community vote for what they want. Put it to referendum, leave it there, and let the cookies fall where they may. And then if it fails, then we come back to the drawing board, we try again for this phased-in approach, and that can happen right after that. Again, from the time this is approved, from the time ground breaks, it's probably not going to be for quite some time. We have time to put this forward. So again, I am in support of the full number going forward. That way, whoever's up here after, it's already locked in. And then with that 60,000, they can phase in, okay, we're gonna do these fields and those fields, but let's lock it all in. That's what I believe, and that's what I feel with. So I appreciate Councilor McBride putting forth a motion that gets the job done and puts the responsibility into the hands of the community, and let the voters come out and speak their mind on it and vote, and then we go from there. We may be shocked as to what will come out of it. And that's all I have to say. So thank you, Councilor McBride.
I'm just going to chime in here to also remind everybody that we did this as the council in a consensus, and that was not the consensus of this council, the direction. We went over it and over it, and we took the consensus of the council. And you have every right to make an amended motion. I cannot support doing the 60 all at once. I just can't. And I think if things happen and we lose funding, and the devastation that could happen, and we're basically, there's a referendum saying we have to do a $60 million renovation to sports fields, when people are like, we can't, education and, seniors in our community and people who can't eat, and we're saying, hey, we're going to go and do 60 million. I can do the 14. I can commit to that. And that's what I heard this council say, is that that's what this council said. It was a consensus. We did a workshop. We did a consensus, and that was the will of this council. And that's why Mr. Burt and the bond agency did this work and came forward. And we're trying to do a last minute, Hail Mary here to do this, the whole thing at once. But I'm going to tell you, I can't put that burden on this community and a commitment like that on this community with some of the things and the tariffs and the economics, and we don't even know just the things coming out of Washington for education and funding and the things that it is very risky. And I am willing to go forward with the 14, even knowing that come September, if we get cut drastically, that we have like a timeline where we can say, hey, you know what? We have a deadline come September 2nd, we can say no by, just in case, before it goes to referendum. But we have people in this community that can't even afford another $50 in taxes. They can't afford another $50 on their car in taxes, fixed incomes. So one phase, and you know what? This is the blueprint. We're laying a blueprint out for any future council on how to do this. That's what we're giving them, a blueprint. Just like I've heard other people ask for. Where's the master plan? This is the master plan. Let's do phase 1 first. And it's not piecemealing, because piecemealing, I've heard about piecemealing in this town, and that's what we did for 50 years, and that's why we are where we're at. This is a master plan in 4 phases, and we are committing basically to doing phase 1 at this time. That's a commitment. That's not a piecemeal. Thank you. Councilor Pacino, did you have your hand up?
Yes. I think a supply sergeant told me many years ago when I had to do an inventory of my supply locker in a unit that I've never been in before, artillery. And I said, I don't know how to do this. He says, how do you eat an elephant? I said, I don't know. He said, 1 bite at a time, Adam. 1 bite at a time. And it took me a little while, but I got the inventory done. I think after waiting 50 years, another 4 to complete this project is not a lot of time. I think I'm going to not vote in favor of this amended motion, and I will vote in favor of the original motion.
Councilor Bordelon.
I heard what the mayor said, and, as a person who always advocates for outside resources, I can barely get any money moved into human services when we talk about the hungry and the food and the needy. But when we talk about things like this, it comes up. And so, yes, let's do it. Let's show we care about that. Let's move some money in there. We got a hefty general fund. Let's do it. I constantly bring it up and ask for money to be moved, and it doesn't go.
Councilor Bordelon, that has nothing to do with the topic on the floor. You are out of order.
Talking about money and taxpayers. It's not out of order.
No, you are talking about human services and the funding for that. That is not the topic on the floor.
I'm talking about our tax dollars and where money's being allocated.
I heard what you said. I heard you.
And it was stated that people can't afford food, and I'm saying the same thing you did. People
I'm
can't
talking
afford
about our
food,
taxpayers.
people can't afford their taxes, people are needing to go to human services, so let's make sure we're supporting them. When those numbers come up, let's put that money there. But what this says is our fields, we're at a point where we can't piecemeal it any longer. And so, yes, the consensus of the council may have been that. I was not part of that consensus. I was, let's put it forward. And what are we afraid of? Let's put it forward, and if the taxpayers vote it up, then it moves. It's not our job to dictate what that looks like. Put it to a vote. Put it to a referendum and let the voters vote in what they want. And then, if it's voted down, we know. We don't know what they want by just assuming up here. So my feeling is, put the whole thing forward like Councilor McBride states, let the voters make an option, and then we can come up with a phased approach after the whole thing is voted in. If it's voted down, then we really know, wow, okay, we might really have to look at this in a different light, and let's put a different number up there. But compared to our other towns, they all have hungry people, tired, disabled, low income, veterans, and somehow, their fields are getting done. We have one of the worst facilities in southeastern Connecticut. The data proves it, just go to any field. Some places are even lower income than ours. It sucks that we are left with the burden of what our people before us did not do, but we have to make a decision now, and that decision is to fix this. We can't keep saying, well, sorry, kids, I'm sorry that the football field's a hazard to your head, and it needs to be patched, and I'm sorry that kids are falling on the bleachers, and I'm sorry that families can't sit with their families in the bleachers because they're not ADA compliant. We can't use the scare tactic of what if the sky falls?
You're out of order, Council Bordelon, saying you were using scare tactics. That's inappropriate. That's inappropriate.
Okay, well, that's fine. So my thing is I feel that saying that
Thank you, your time has
tomorrow we
expired.
might not have the money, we have to act
Your
now.
time has
And we
expired.
can't worry about the what-ifs with the federal government. If something is needed, we need to do it.
Your time has
Thank you.
expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Rusk.
Madam Mayor.
Counselor Parker, I believe, had her hand up first.
I'm sorry, Councilor Parker. Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm actually I move the previous question.
All right. The amended motion is on the floor. We have to vote to move the question. All those in favor of moving the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
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 That passes 4 to 3 to 0. The amended motion is on the floor. Councilor McBride, he said a lot. I didn't write it, I couldn't write it all down. But basically, in a nutshell, he was asking for the whole plan as a whole for $60 million in a 20-year loan, 20-year bonding, I'm sorry.
With a phased-in construction approach.
Phased-in construction. With a phased-in construction approach. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
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 Abstentions? That fails 2 to 5 to 0. We're back to the main motion on the floor, which is to recommend a resolution to accept the present four-phase bond plan for athletic field improvements at Fitch High School, Sutton Park, and the former Colchester Elementary, and to authorize the town bond council to prepare the bond ordinance for issuance of Phase 1 bonds.
Aye.
I'm looking to see if there's any hands, if anybody wants to say anything.
I thought we moved the question.
We're back to the main menu, main motion. Counselor Rusk,
Do I still have a time? I'm sorry.
you have a second turn,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. I'd like to address, some of the concerns that were brought up. I guess, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of overtaxing people. I had a lot of people come to me during the budget session saying, we are not made of money, we can't continue raising taxes to the degree that we're being asked of. I get that a majority could pass with $60 million, but there's a minority from that who may not be able to afford that. And to suddenly ask a household of 4 to pay an additional, even if, the rough numbers are right, an additional $400 every year may be too much for them on top of the taxes that we just raised. Additionally, we just got cut DOD funding. We may be cut educational funding. We don't know. And I'm not trying to use scare tactics. I'm just looking at the reality of this world. We've already been cut DOD funding, so we as taxpayers are making up that. I don't know how much more we are going to have to make up. This is a fiscally responsible way of doing this. I want to get this done as much as the next person. I hope that this council can get behind this and support this, and that we don't vote this down because it will be another year then before we get to look at it again. So I'm hoping that everybody here we can start this process moving forward. Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a vote on the main motion on the floor, as I had just previously read. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. Abstentions? Counselor Bordelon, I didn't hear your vote. That passes 6-1-0. Up next, 2025-245, short-term rental discussion. This is in our packet on page 75. There is no motion on this. Mr. Burt, would you like to sort of give a synopsis on the STRs, or is Mr.
I'll start.
Reiner? Okay.
Certainly. As a way of background, this goes back a ways. The town council had been working on drafting a short-term rental ordinance. The ordinance would have required owners to file certain information, including contact information for emergencies, maximum capacities. The ordinance required only allow a maximum capacity of 2 persons per bedroom, excluding children under the age of 12. STR registration number, plan showing the location of trash receptacles, locations of off-street parking available. So the town council had spent considerable time looking at that. While the council was working on that, the town's planning and zoning commission was also working on their own amendments to the town's zoning regulations. While the town council and PZC were working on their respective rules, there was a court case going on before the Connecticut Supreme Court, the Francis Whibby versus Pine Orchards Association Zoning Board of Appeals. There were some discussions prior on whether would STR, short-term rentals, be grandfathered into zoning. That was what that Supreme Court case involved. Were they allowed, the case would decide whether existing STRs in municipalities where STRs are neither expressly prohibited nor expressly allowed, would they be considered an allowable use by right? The town council determined it is best to put your process on hold until the court case was settled before making any decisions. They also requested the Planning and Zoning Commission hold further work on their regulations to ensure their regulations would mesh well with any potential town ordinance and not cause undue burden on staff or STR owners. The PZC went ahead and moved forward with their regulations and adopted them prior to the results of the Whibby case. The highlights of the Planning and Zoning Commission's regulations, which again are zoning regulations, different than an ordinance. It goes into defining short-term rentals. It says where they're allowed, where they're not. They're trying to sway them away from regular single-family residential into other areas. Fairly restrictive on new ones establishing. There'd be limitations placed on number of STRs per lot, requirements on parking, lighting, and noise and temporary events. So they adopted their ordinance. The Whibby case in the meantime, since then, has been resolved. STRs were found to be allowed by right unless they were expressly prohibited, meaning that the zoning regulations only apply moving forward, not backwards. The existing STRs at that time were allowed. Now, what happens now with the planning staff is if there's questions on whether something was allowed by then, they have to research and see if they existed prior to that time of regulations being adopted. And the reason we're really bringing this up is, one, you put it on hold, and two, it's on our outstanding list. So we're just looking for direction on whether you want to do anything further with this. Though I would say it's now going to get confusing if you do something on top of zoning regulations. If you were to do something, you want to charge enough to be able to hire an outside company that specializes in these things to run it. So just looking for some direction.
All right, I don't see any initial hands, so I'm going to start because I remember being on this years and years ago when this all started. Let me ask you, Mr. Burt, when it comes to the town council can dictate for all STRs.
Correct.
Planning and zoning can only do, when they put in an ordinance, it's there going forward.
Correct.
And everybody else was grandfathered.
Correct.
So if you have to, if like, as we wanted a registration process at the council, people could have came in, registered their STRs, we could have given them the little packet that says, these are all the requirements. But now that there is a planning and zoning ordinance in place, if we have a registration process, it's more complicated. It's not just registering your STR. It is now having to prove that you have been an STR prior to when they set their ordinances. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which makes it way more complicated. Is that correct? And would be much more hard, it would be, in my view, harder on your town staff to try and dig through all this. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have a direction that they would like to go in? Councilor McBride?
I don't necessarily have a direction, but I would look for town manager's staff to come up with recommendations, because I think you have more expertise than at least I do. So I would look
I
at
think the
options.
horse is out of the barn. I don't think it's worth pursuing at this point.
Okay, that's what I would, I'd want to hear from your opinion on this. Almost.
Councilor Bordelon?
So how to get on our agenda, was this a recommendation from you, the town manager, just to kind of see where we stood, or?
Well, it was required to come back at some point, so we're just bringing it back. The direction of the council is wait until that Supreme Court case was decided, then bring it back. So that's been decided, so here we are.
I think planning and zoning put their thoughts forward and passed something, so.
And I will say, I've not received a complaint since they put the regulations in.
So I guess it's kind of really nothing to discuss at this time. I mean, are you thinking we should have a public comment on it or a hearing to see where people stand? I mean, we're only a small snapshot of the community,
You only get, my personal opinion on those types of things, you only get the negative people out. I don't think it's a snapshot. I think it's an unfair bias towards a certain direction.
No, I was saying
yeah.
we are only a snapshot.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're elected.
Yeah. So, if there's really, I would need to hear from more people as to what they would want,
Well,
based on it, so.
I think no complaints in 2 years is hearing from people, in a way.
So it was good that planning and zoning did what they did?
Yeah, they did, it was a good regulations, and I heard nothing but praise on them, so.
Okay. All right.
So I'll take another turn. So from what I saw from the planning and zoning, they basically restricted them from a majority of the town. Is that correct?
From the prime residential, there are some residential districts you can do it with special permits, that type of thing. But they're trying to direct them out of single-family residential, more towards commercial or multifamily areas.
And then but I also remember we had a registration process sort of set up, and it would also included to get a fire inspection done. And it would require them to have parking, or at least show where the parking was, off-street parking, and how many people were allowed to stay in a room. And there were things of that nature. Because, and then also if they had, if there were noise issues, it would have because it's a registration process, it could go into a database. If you had multiple issues, there were also penalties and fines for such issues.
Right.
And after so many, it kept going up and higher and things of that nature. That wasn't in the planning and zonings. They can't do that kind of thing. That's only the town council can do that, correct?
We do have the police power to fine for those, and we do fine for that type of thing.
Right, but when
we
people
get
came
very-
and-
We get very few noise complaints from STRs that we know of. We honestly don't get a lot of noise complaints generally here and there, but more
When this
mistakes.
was a hot topic issue and the people were coming, they were saying there were all these STR parties all over the place, and we were hearing it nonstop from all kinds of people. I mean, all of a sudden that just disappeared.
Yeah.
Even before they made their ruling, the complaints just disappeared. I didn't see any after that. Even before the planning and zoning made a decision.
Things took off during COVID. We saw a lot of it coming in. That's what alarmed
Mm-hmm.
people. And, you know, it's cooled off since then.
So, all right. I'm with you. I think it is too much work to create the town council to do anything now, and I don't see a need for it at this time. I would have liked to have a registration process, and then the town would have had a list of all the STRs in our community. So when people make a guesstimate of how many there are in the community, nobody has the right number because we have no registration process. That's sort of the shame, I think, that we sort of lost in the whole mix of it, to actually know how many are in our community. But I am good with do nothing approach at this time, so. Anybody else?
We
Councilor McBride.
we can always, I mean, if July and August it gets crazy, we can always revisit this. In September, it's not that we're taking any action, right? We can always come back to this if needed.
It can be revisited in the future, yes. Just about anything can be.
Yeah, that's all, just wanted to, you know.
Even if it's ordinance that did pass, it can be revisited, like we do like blight. We can bring it back and refresh the ordinance. All right, I'm not hearing or seeing other hands. Oh, Counselor Parker just popped her hand up.
Madam Mayor? Question for you. Did we do the ordinance, or did the planning and zoning do the ordinance for it, for STRs?
We created
We
an-
didn't do we did?
We created an ordinance and we never passed it. And then planning and zoning had passed their
Regulations.
Their regulation. They passed a regulation.
So my question is, it's actually a 2/3 vote. We did create something and didn't go through. So that means you have to be a 2/3 vote to bring it back.
No, it was never voted on.
And it was
It
more
was
than a year
created.
ago.
It was created like many, many moons ago, like almost 4 years
Yeah,
ago,
it
I
was
think.
definitely-
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm not hearing anybody who wants to do anything or change anything, so I think we're gonna, I guess, scratch that off our list and keep moving on. All right, up next is a short 2025-241 recreation property purchase discussion. This is an executive session.
Mayor, just if you get to that motion, you can strike Mark Berry off. He's no longer here.
All right, where is it? There it is. Counselor Pacino, this one's yours. Can you strike off?
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I'm leaving because I can't be there.
you are correct. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Counselor Parker has left the meeting at 9:39. All right, you want to take that one, Counselor Pacino?
Do. Item 2025-241, recreation property purchase, discussion, executive session. The motion is, I move to have the members of the town committee of the whole, town council committee of the whole, town manager John Burt, planning director John Reiner, go into executive session pursuant to the general statutes, section 1, TAC 200-6D, discussion of selection of site of lease, sale, or purchase of real estate by the state or, excuse me, I'm sorry, or political subdivision of the state of the publicity regarding such site, lease, sale, purchase, or construction until such time as all the property has been acquired or all proceedings or transactions concerning same have been terminated or abandoned for the discussion of purchasing property for recreational purposes.
Second.
Moved by Pacino, seconded by Russ. All right, all those in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 6 to 0 to 0. All right, we are going into executive session at 9:41. right, it's 9:53. We are back from executive session. I think we don't have any motion. So,
Motion to adjourn?
moved by Bordelon, second by Rusk. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 6-0 to 0. We are adjourned at 9:53. Thank you, everybody. Drive safe.